welcome to the People Planet Profit podcast. I'm Hayley Jarick, CEO of the Supply Chain Sustainability School, and today I'm joined by Chad Buxton, who's the Partnership Manager at Huskee. Huskee was a winner at the inaugural ACE Awards in 2022, which is where I got familiar with the brand, and so we've invited Chad to come along and have a chat with us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Hayley.
Excellent. Well, let's get right into it. I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but can you explain to me and everyone listening just the HuskeeSwap system and how it works and what's so different and cool about it?
Yeah, so Huskee's mission as a company that produces reusable products is to help transition to a waste-free world. So what we're trying to achieve is making it simple to use, eliminate single-use disposables because we think that's not great for the planet. So we developed a HuskeeSwap system as a answer to the problem, as well as some of our other systems like Huskee Loop, which is our product stewardship scheme or return scheme where we repurpose our materials into something new. And the HuskeeSwap system is quite unique in terms of reusable systems out there. So the way I like to describe it is HuskeeSwap is an opt-in model. So when you're looking at how do we get people to transition away from single-use disposables because they're so convenient and that's what we're used to, you have to go back in time and remember that single-use disposables haven't been around for that long, but they are convenient. So you want a system that is as convenient or better user experience to try and get them over their current behavior. So the HuskeeSwap system is opt-in, and simply all you need to do to use the swap system, or our swap system, is to swap the cup. So if you have a Huskee cup, you give it to a cafe that's participating. They already have pre-washed cups available, and they swap them over for a new one. Now, in that regard, some of the unique features of it is there is no app required. Now, we do have app that helps you do additional things with your cup. So like if you want to store your cup at the cafe and don't want to carry it around all day, you can do that. If you forgot your cup at home and you still want to use a reusable cup, you can opt into that feature. That's your borrow feature. We have loyalty features coming up, which are just about to be launched. So another reason why you might want to use an app. But let's say you don't have a phone or you don't want to download an app, for example, you don't have to. You can opt into those features and use the features that you want. And that's kind of an important differentiation with our system and others is, a lot of these tech-enabled solutions require you to use the tech. We think it's great to give consumers and businesses choice, and so you can use them as you choose. Another nice thing about our feature, our swap system, is that it adds an additional revenue stream to a business. So if you're a business and you're considering reuse, there's two ways in which you're going to save money. One, a lot of businesses don't think about it, but single-use packaging is a large cost for operations. So the example we normally give is if you were a cafe and you were serving 200 coffees a day, which is not a lot for a busy cafe. If every single one of those cups was in a disposable cup, in Australia you'd be paying $18,000 a year just for your cups and lids. So if you were to able to switch your customers over to a reusable, you're obviously going to save a lot of that cost. Now, that cost savings only applies if you can get customers on board. And so what we normally see is on average you get 10 to 20% of your customers doing swap, and then maybe over time you'll get more. So the savings is a lot less, but it is significant if you can get them there. What most systems don't also provide is a revenue stream. So with our system, to use the system, you get a customer to buy a cup. There's no additional costs associated with that. So there's no subscriptions, deposits, rental schemes, no ongoing costs, which is nice for the consumer. But once they have a cup, they can use it. And obviously the cafe is going to get revenue for that. So it adds that additional revenue to an already kind of low income exercise. It's low margins. Coffee shops run on low margins. So the HuskeeSwap system does that as well. Now, the system in and of itself is not necessarily designed for a user. Huskee considers itself a design company first and foremost. So we pride ourselves on design, whether that's a system or the cup itself. And most people know Huskee for the design of the cup. which is nice. But the system was actually designed for cafes, so that it's easy to use, it's stackable, it's interchangeable, and like I said, the tech is low, and so there's not any ongoing costs for them or any reason for them to have to invest further. So yeah, that's, I guess, HuskeeSwap in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, it sounds pretty simple. And like I said, it's kind of, for me, it was a bit of an eye-opener in terms of the reuse space, but also just sort of redefining the problem, right? So I think a lot of people, when we sort of moved into the coffee cup space, you sort of think, I've gone to a coffee shop, I need a cup to put my drink in. And there's this, that preconceived notion of, I need a cup. Whereas I need to own a cup. Either I buy a cup, there needs to be a disposable one. I need to sit down and have one in there. I need to bring a cup with me. I need to, all of this stuff around that sort of goes around that. But for when I first heard about your business model, the big thing for me was like, actually, no, I don't. What I need is just something to put my drink in at the time that I can give back later. Like it doesn't need to be, does it need to be a cup? Does it need to be something? No, actually, my need is that I just need to put the liquid in something so I can drink it. And I love the idea of that, just sort of changing that mentality of the system. I don't need to own the cup. It can just be part of a system,
Yeah, that's right. When I discuss this, I often tell people is when you order a cup of coffee, you're not ordering the cup. You're ordering the coffee.
Coffee.
Get it served in a cup. And you really don't have much choice in what it comes in. I mean, that's up to the business to decide. And that's a big differentiation between a BYO service, or remembering to bring your own cup, or having a swap system in place.
Yeah.
In the BYO situation, yes, that's great, and we encourage that, and we think that's awesome. But you're putting the onus on the customer. The customer has to remember it. They have to bring it in and do all the things. They have to wash it. And so there's advantages of having a swap system. And if you have a swap system as a business, it's more about integrating that into your service or your offer. So now you're offering a coffee with some choices. Do you want that in your BYO cup? Do you want that in a Huskee cup? Or would you like that in a takeaway disposable cup? Now the customer is thinking, oh, wait, I have choices and I can make an active choice of what I want to do. But the business is integrating that offer by asking it every time. And that's the big difference. And that's how you get solving the single-use plastics problem at scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you've touched on a pretty key point there too, around that a lot of people like to pass the buck down the chain, right? Like, so it ends up with, well, I don't want to give away disposable cups, but that's what all the customers ask for. They don't bring their own. I really don't have an option. You're kind of like, well, hang on, why are we pushing this problem all the way down to the end consumer when you can go, actually, we can just take it one step up. And if the system is in place that's there, people will either choose it or you don't have an option. Wouldn't it be great if you went to a shop that went, hey, look, you've got the option of bring your own cup or have a Huskee. Like, that's it. Like, you don't have a disposable option.
That's right. And you think the business case would be pretty simple and straightforward, and every cafe or business would be taking it up, whether that's corporates or a cafe or a university, whatever it might be. It's a win-win-win. But the reality is behavior change is hard.
Yeah.
And even if you were to point out to the cafe that even if you switch to something like a compostable cup, which has its own issues, and it may not actually meet your expectations, it's probably not going to get composted. The reality is you're going to pay more for that than what you are currently paying in terms of your single-use paper cup that you already have.
Yeah.
And so getting them around this mental hurdle about another way, it's often about time and effort. And it's like, do I have the time to consider this? Do I have the time? Even though on paper it makes total sense. Yeah. And that's where the real challenge is like, how do you get them across that line?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that you've spoken about a few different points there around like customers coming in and saying, actually, it's a very convenient system for me because if I've taken away a cup, I can always bring one back. I might accumulate 5 or 6 cups, but don't worry, I can return them all. If I break my cup, I can put it back into the system and have it recycled into a new cup. I'm like, well, that's great, because otherwise my other alternative is landfill, right? And I think that's kind of where people forget that you know, they go, oh no, it's a paper coffee cup, it'll be fine. You're like, no, that paper cup has a nice plastic lining, which means you can't recycle it. You know, and all of those issues that go along with that, they sort of lead into this false sense of happiness and security. Like you said, for businesses, it makes a win-win. Like, for me, I travel a lot, so trying to find somewhere to wash my cup in between places is quite difficult. Taking the right implements, especially if I'm traveling and trying to wash it in the basin of a hotel room, can be quite difficult because there's a lot of moving parts and things, and so you worry about hygiene. So it does solve a lot of those problems.
It does, and you're pointing out something that I just experienced as well. So, you know, when we're activating councils, I'm on the road, I'm meeting those councils, and I'm active, and I don't have my normal keep cup that I would use. So normally, I'd probably wash my own cup because I just like to do that, and I bring it, and I'm happy to do that. But in those scenarios where I'm traveling, I don't have a sink available and whatever. And so in those cases, I was like, yeah, it would be great to swap because now I don't have to deal with this problem. You know, maybe but that's the whole beauty of HuskeeSwap is you opt into the things that you need at the time, and they're not required.
Yeah. And it's such a simple system, and I really like the way that it's sort of transforming things. I think the other really cool thing about this is the way that it sort of gives people the opportunity to think about other systems and sort of being more circular and more sustainable in their general lives. Because, you know, if you can switch to a HuskeeSwap system and you see that, it then sort of brings to light for you just a totally new way of thinking. So hopefully the ripple effect of that is you can see how this can play out in a number of other things. You know, like, wouldn't it be great if it was also with cutlery, it was also with, you know, a bunch of other different areas, and you can kind of think, oh, you know, I travel, I always take my own knife, fork and spoon and straw everywhere I go. Mostly because, like, you just never know whether you're going to need it or someone forgets it or how you're going to eat anything. But I'm the exception rather than the rule, right? And so it really gets you to start to think about, oh, what are my consumer needs and why do I need that, and how can I transfer this into other parts of my life? Have you found that as well?
Yeah, I think as a society globally, we're reaching that peak plastic awareness. I think everyone now understands the issue over and become the norm that we're not using a lot of these single-use plastics in the future. There's a lot of work being put in this place. Now, what that system is that is behind it might be multiple systems, but I think just as we adopted single-use cups a long time ago, we'll probably adopt reusables in the future. And I think it just makes a lot of sense for the planet and for people.
Absolutely. And look, I'm really happy that you were recognised and received lots of awards, because I know you've received design awards and you're a finalist in the Banksia Sustainability Awards, and obviously you got the ACE Awards last year as well. So I think it's really nice when you do something game-changing and it does take off, that you get that little bit of recognition from people in the field that go, hey, it's not just you that thinks this is a great idea. There's a whole bunch of other people out there who think this is an awesome idea as well. And I really hope that transforms into a lot of market share for you, right? Like, get on board, pick a new system, and if not this, then at least change the way you think about other things. If you're not happen to be in a coffee cup space, then think intuitively about this system and think, oh, I wonder how I can apply that to my biggest waste stream and how that can be different.
That's right, and it takes a brave company. Like, reuse is in its infancy, and so there's a lot of models out there at the moment, and everyone's trying to solve this problem in a variety of ways, and they're all very exciting.
Yeah.
But to be able to scale, to be able to offer a solution at scale, there's a lot involved. There's logistics, there's distribution, there's the materials that you use, and then when you think about what is circular, what does that mean, and how do we apply that as a company? All of those things we try to consider, because like I said, Huskee is a design company, so even down to the materials that we choose, we try to make sure that everything we are using is incorporating recycled content, for example, because we do want to be part of circular economy, and we want to put that in practice as opposed to talking about what the concept means. We want to show what it actually looks like.
Yeah. And you know what? The circular economy is not going to work unless you start collaborating. So I'll put a call out there to all people out there. If you haven't already looked into the Huskee system, please go and look into it. See if it works for you. I'm sure Chad would love to have a chat with you and sort of get it on board. And if not this, then see how it works for everybody else. So anyway, Chad, thank you so much for joining me and having a chat today. I'm really glad that you came along and were able to share both the system, but also the thought and idea to open up people's minds on the podcast today.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting us, Hayley.
No worries. And thanks for listening to the People Planet Profit podcast. Until our next episode, goodbye.